Hey, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, I am Natja. I am an artist and a picture book illustrator from the Netherlands. And today I'm going to show you around in this sketchbook. It's a sketchbook that I recently finished and I'm very excited to show you everything that's inside. I bought the sketchbook from Letter Wish. So as you can see, I started the sketchbook in 2022 and I now finished it in 2023. Didn't immediately make a cover page for the sketchbook. This drawing was something that I added later on because I didn't quite find the inspiration to do a cover page when I started the sketchbook. But then inspiration struck and I came up with this sketch, and I thought it was kind of fun because it leads the eye to the beginning of the sketchbook. When I first started the sketchbook, I was thinking I was going to make a lot of elaborate and intricate pencil drawings, so hence this one. This was the style that I thought, I'm going to commit to in the sketchbook, but I must admit that I easily gave up on that because it was a lot of time to create this. It's not really a sketch, but actually quite a finished piece. So after that I tried to loose up a bit. So it took me some time to get used to the pages and get used to the size of the sketchbook. And yeah, I think it's become a little bit of a mix-up of a lot of things, which most sketchbooks are anyways. I tried to let go of my perfectionism. These are illustrations of a dog that visits the art studio which I work in sometimes outside of my home. This is more kind of a finished piece that I created in the sketchbook. And it's me and my son, and we're sheltering from the rain. This style of leaves had been in my mind for some time, so I wanted to give that a try. And yeah, it turned out to be a full page illustration. So this is the first color pencil illustration that's in the sketchbook. After finishing this, I wasn't quite satisfied. I think I could have unified the plants a bit better. I just don't quite like the overall look. And I think there are some improvements to be made, but that's also what a sketchbook is about. I do like that there's a fully completed colored spread in my sketchbook. I had fun drawing this girl, and it's a little bit of a fantasy piece. So this was around the time that I did have a little bit of difficulty to create in my sketchbook, so I thought I'm going to just make some characters just for fun. I remember that this little character took me a lot of time to create and I had a lot of fun with it, and I liked adding these details and designing his clothes, and it's like a, I don't know, a Zelda type character, and I imagine him being a little warrior in the forest and looking out for other animals. I was watching Stranger Things when I drew this character, and yeah, I added a little Walkman and I was listening to the Kate Bush song, so that's what that is all about, and I added a little snail. I also got inspiration while listening to a song for this character. I was thinking about creating a full illustration and him being on a boat and catching stars in the sea, also a little bit of a fantasy piece. But I never got around to making this one actually. But that's the fun of sketchbook, that you can always browse back and see if there are any ideas that you left unvisited, so I may visit this one in the future. The sketchbook is a little bit torn, as you can see. It's falling apart. You saw the tape here, and well, I don't mind. It shows me that I drew a lot in it. I drew this piece when I was sad, I believe. Often when I feel emotional or anxious, I tend to put that into my drawings, and yeah, I remember posting this piece and it got a lot of reactions. Some people felt the same as me. It's a nice thing that you can share something like that, and maybe it will comfort other people as well. I think this is maybe kind of a piece to fill up the page because it was left blank. And I think I tore something out I must have not been very content with. I don't remember what it was. We'll never know. Sometimes I get in a mood to draw something realistically or to do a little study. I had the idea to make more of these bugs and write the Latin name underneath the bug. And I did that for this one. Never got around to making other bugs, and I think I just lost interest a bit. And I don't know, I just like to make illustrations more than, you know, like more realistic drawings. So to accompany this piece, I made a spread of the Beatles, and this is quite the opposite of that one, I think. I thought it would be fun to make like more stylized versions of Beatles, so I looked up a bunch of references and I tried to make very loose, almost childlike illustrations, and I had a lot of fun with that, and of course I called them the Beatles. I made these illustrations more kind of like preliminary sketches to see what kind of direction I was wanting to go in for the cover of my 2023 calendar. This has been last year. I made this sketch for a possible mural at the art studio that I mentioned earlier, and it actually never went on the wall there. I'm not very confident in making murals, I must say, so I'm not fully sad that it never happened. I do have a lot of these like small character sketches, and I often post illustrations like these on Instagram. I think here I was also feeling like drawing something a little more realistic and adding some little fantasy elements to it. I really do love to add lights and little details and flying floofs to everything that I draw. I add that a lot to my finished illustrations as well. I don't know why, but I just really like that. And here I was experimenting, and I wanted to create a character with kind of a backstory, and also with a little bit of a fantasy feel. I remember that I was thinking actually about creating this entire world of my little animal characters, and there were a couple of like guardian characters that would protect the world and make sure that we humans do not see those little characters and all of the little scenes that I draw. And it was fun exploring that idea for a bit. And I actually created some categories for the worlds that I do like to draw. So this is kind of a bit of a meta exploration of my work, so to speak. I created these sketches around the time that my son was going to a new school, and he had a difficult time with it. It was a bit of a tough time, and I once again processed these emotions by making some sketches and having this kind of visual diary, and also adding some moments that did feel good. And yeah, it's kind of a journal, but then with illustrations. I remember making this sketch in my favorite coffee shop, and they actually do have a kind of a tree inside and a little tree house, so I invented some characters to live in there, and there's a little ladybug drinking coffee. I made this during autumn. It's a little animal making autumn decorations. The illustrations move a bit to an autumn theme. I always try to incorporate the seasons a little bit in my art, and it's noticeable here. And this is a character called Stefan, and I've drawn him more within other illustrations. Sometimes some characters just do keep popping up in my work, and I always like when I visit. He joined the Cozy Autumn Challenge, I think, around that time, and I created some sketches for what I was going to draw within that challenge. And I actually also made prints of these sketches. There are more sketches in this book that I eventually ended up turning into prints. Oh yes, here I was trying to start the 100 Heads challenge, and I so quickly gave up. I think I haven't even fully started. Yeah, I was trying to do a couple of heads every day, but in the end I just ended up thinking, why am I even doing this? I did want to improve my drawing skills. It's also that's always a good thing, of course, but I almost never draw humans, so I ended up thinking, you know, maybe one day I will do a challenge where I draw 100 animal heads or 100 characters. I think that would be more fitting. But anyways, they did end up in my sketchbook, so here they are. Here is that character that I showed you before. I think this was just a fun spread, fun experimentation. This was a little sketch that I made for a commission. And these are also sketches that I made for a commission. Sometimes when I draw commissions, I like to create the sketches in my sketchbook, and you know, I can show my client the several ideas I have. And we ended up going for, I think, a mix between these two. This is not the actual sketch, but it's a print of the sketch, which I edited a little bit and added some highlights to, and I thought it would be fun to add to my sketchbook. And this is, I think, an unfinished sketch for another idea I had in this series, which I didn't revisit again because I didn't quite like it as much as I did this one. And I ended up making a big painting for this one, actually, and I would like to revisit this in the future. The character and the style, it's a bit different from what I usually make, but I do really like to try some new things. It's difficult, but I try to broaden my horizon a bit and not stick to one style. I would like to do multiple things and try different media, and also, you know, try different styles and themes. I really like the idea of making a design that's across the entire page, so that's what I tried here. I launched some new tiers on my Patreon page this year, and I thought about creating these new avatars for each reward tier. I didn't end up using these ones, also the titles I didn't end up using, but it was a fun way to see what could fit for these tiers. The first physical art print for my Patreon, because I launched those new tiers, and one of them, the Happy Mail Club, includes an art print sent to the home of the patron. This was the first print I designed for the Patreon tier. This theme revolves around self-love, so the little character is hugging itself. It's a character that I've also made a couple of times up until now, so it has a couple of prints. And this little ladybug is a part of that, so it's always accompanying the little character. So these are another bunch of character sketches, and I made this one during Christmas. I never really made characters out of plants before, and I thought, you know, let's do something different. And I just love his little bum right here. I think he really has an attitude, don't you? So these are some sketches I made during my Christmas holidays. We went to a little cabin, and yeah, I was sketching a little bit there. I don't think it really has a certain theme to it. This was one of the cabins there that I drew. And I also drew some girls. I thought it was fun to add some leaves for hair, so I experimented a bit with that. I added this little guy later on. These are also some sketches I made during that vacation. I think this was a time around the beginning of the year, which I was a little bit, I was struggling a little bit to create some new art, and I didn't really feel very inspired, so at that point I just started making some random doodles, which happens a lot within this book, I think. But often that's just the perfect way to get inspired again and pick up your pencils, and it often leads to a little bit more inspiration and new ideas. So here I once again was making a Patreon print, and you can see the ideas I had here, and I asked everyone what idea they loved the most, and it ended up being this design, and it also turned into a print, like I said. So in the print I made sure that the mushroom was a little bit lower, because the theme of the print was I am safe, so it felt a bit more sheltered to make this comfy scene with the mushroom top a little bit lower. This was also the first time that I used my oil pastels in my sketchbook, and I ended up really enjoying that. So once again, these are some random doodles. This is my son dressed as a bunny. When I was working in a sketchbook, I simultaneously worked on a book with a circus theme, so some of the illustrations in this book are, I think, subconsciously have gotten a little bit of a circusy vibe. I think my sketchbook is a great way to explore things for picture books as well. These sketches were made of the character for that circus-themed picture book I was talking about. It's called Jonathan, and the character is also called Jonathan. I devoted a separate video to the creation of this book, and these were specifically for the end pages of the book, so the design of the end pages. I wanted to make 3 brand new illustrations. They all were revolving around bunny characters. Here's a character playing the violin for little bunnies that are listening. Here I wanted to make one for the character gazing at the moon, and this one was for a grandma knitting a scarf for a little bunny and he is using it as a blanket. So in these pages I made a little bit more detailed sketches, so these are thumbnails and these are the more detailed sketches. I wanted to do all of these illustrations, so all 3 of them, but I ended up only painting this one as a finished illustration. But like I said, I can revisit these ideas once again, and I actually made the pencil illustration for this one, so it can be painted at any moment now. And I would also like to create this one still. So I wanted to practice a bit with light values on darker values and darker values on white values to have a good contrast in my illustrations, and that's why I created that piece. I was aware of that same contrast with when I was making these pieces. I also tried to add a little bit more texture to the clothing, and I experimented with the shapes in the piece, and I wanted to make it very detailed, add a lot of details to the clothing, and I wanted to have a very soft pencil feel to the illustrations. I don't think you always necessarily need color. I really do like creating images in black and white. When you don't have the colors, it's very important to have a good contrast between the lights and the darks, and that's something that I keep practicing with and experimenting with within my illustrations. These are thumbnail sketches I made for some potential pieces for an exhibit that I did earlier this year, and I ended up making this one and this one as a larger painting. I ended up making a colored watercolor version of this sketch. I also devoted a video to the process of that, so you can see how this was made in color. And for the layout, I thought I would add some floating bunnies. I really liked making these ones. It's just something that I can draw very mindlessly, and I really liked adding a little bit of dynamic flow to the piece and adding the bubbles to show the direction of the bunnies, and going to draw these bunnies again. So if you watched more of my YouTube videos, you may have seen these characters. These were the ones that I created when doing that challenge of creating some characters with prompts. So I asked everyone to name an animal, a clothing style, and a trait or a job. And then I would randomly pick one of each and create a character for it. So I made these 3 ones. I think I will do that again in the future because I still have a lot of the prompts left for that. These are sketches that I made for the book that I'm working on currently. I can't tell a lot about it yet, but you will certainly see some more of it in the future. And it's a little chipmunk character. This was the first lino print that I made. And oh, I have so much to learn, but you know, I was very proud that I made my first lino, so I thought I'd add it here. So these were thumbnail sketches for another little more intricate pencil drawing. I ended up going for, again, a combination of the 2 sketches. So this is what I ended up making. I often make sketches and illustrations that revolve around me and my son. We drink a lot of tea together, so this was the perfect illustration to combine our love for tea and for bunnies. So sometimes I like to draw illustrations and add quotes, and they revolve around mental health and anxiety, which is something that pops up for me from time to time. Well, of course we all have anxiety from time to time because it's a human emotion, but I can struggle with that from time to time. So I do like to incorporate things like that in my illustrations, and sometimes it just helps to process them, like I said, and to also help other people that struggle with the same things. Right now I'm actually working on a card deck with illustrations and quotes, and it will be called Cozy Comfort Cards, and that project will launch on Kickstarter in August, and I'm going to try and raise the funds for the card deck. It will be, I think, 25 cards, and I'm creating them all right now, and they will just be cozy cards to read when you have an off day. They are for sad and anxious moments in particular, and I really like that I can create something from my own struggles, if that makes any sense. This is a very tiny illustration. This sketch I also made for another patron print, and it's a little cozy book nook, and I ended up making a painting, and that also turned into a print. This is a mood. This was the second lino print that I made. It's also months apart, so I didn't really follow through with the lino immediately. It's always kind of a hurdle when I try something new, a new technique or medium. I try it out, and then often I do nothing with it for months. But then I tried again, and of course right now I haven't tried it for months again, so I hope to revisit that in the future as well. It's always so tough to learn something new and create something when you know you're struggling a bit and it doesn't come quite easily or doesn't flow very easily yet. You know, you don't have acquired those skills yet. So these are again some random sketches. It's almost time to create my 2024 calendar, so I was visiting some ideas for that one. I also briefly thought about creating a zine for some of my simpler sketches, but then I decided to go with the card deck, and this one has been put on the back burner for a little bit. This was a little bird that I made with inspiration at the other art studio that I visit, and they had this little birdie with a hat and ribbon, so I made a little character out of it. This is actually a print. I was wanting to try animation for a long time, like simple animations for my illustrations. So I created a couple of illustrations for that, and I made some changes to it in Photoshop as well, and then I edited them in my video software, and I made my first tiny illustration, and you may have seen it in one of my former videos. So here I was revisiting some new pieces for my 2024 calendar. So once again I thought about 3 pieces with a little bit of a sequential theme, and I added quotes to them even, so I thought I would add this to my calendar and also make art prints of them. I haven't followed through with that entirely. I am thinking about creating this one for the calendar, and the other ones I will have to see. So I also made some more detailed sketches for them. And I just have to think a bit about which one or ones I will add to the calendar. I joined Bon Voyage Week. It's another art challenge on Instagram, and oh, this was so much fun. I made this one for the announcement that I was joining Bon Voyage Week. I really had fun making those detailed pencil illustrations again, and whenever I have the time I really do like to create like sort of finished pencil illustrations, and I ended up making 3 of them for the theme. I did the prompt encounter and local eats in one, so this was a mix of those prompts. I showed those ideas, and here I was trying to create them with pencil. When I was making this, I kind of lost the spark. You know, when you have an idea for an illustration or a project, and when you eventually start, you think, this may not be it. So I'm not sure about this one. Will be continued. On the left, I again drew some simple illustrations to post on Instagram. I like to alternate more detailed illustrations and projects with simple sketches on a white background. These are some simple sketches I made for those cozy comfort cards. And this was some inspiration I had for a piece that could maybe follow up that black and white painting that I made. It was this sketch. I thought this may be a good addition to this little series, and I wanted to make large mushrooms, kind of an aesthetically pleasing composition, and I was playing around with having a very, very small character, so the mushrooms almost become like this forest. I'm not quite pleased yet with how this composition turned out. I think the character needs to be a little bit more small, and the mushrooms may need to be a little bit more like intimidating intimidating mushrooms, so it gets a little bit of a darker feel to it. So these are some sketches that I made for the cozy comfort cards that I talked about, and this is the little main character, and the ladybug is also making an appearance. Well, if you would like to stay updated about that deck and about the Kickstarter campaign, you can always sign up for my newsletter or follow me on Instagram, where I'll be posting updates around the launch of the campaign. And these are some very, 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 very loose sketches that I made during like a prompted time challenge. I don't know really what to call it, but I was working in that other art studio outside of my home, and with one of my co-workers and other artists there, she had the idea to do this timed challenge. So we had, I believe, 1 or 2 minutes to draw the prompts that we chose, and it was a lot of fun, and it really helped me to get in the drawing vibe. I wasn't really inspired at that moment, but when I started drawing, I got some of that inspiration. And yeah, it was a lot of fun, and I did that once more at home with my son, actually. We did 2-minute sketches, and I picked out the themes with my son, and it was just a lot of fun. So I ended up with a bunch of funny sketches, I think. I drew the Nintendo Switch, which was one of the themes that he chose, and I just completely forgot which buttons were on it. These are some sketches for another commission for Christmas cards, which I will be making a little later this year. I've actually come at the end of the sketchbook, and I'm soon going to start a new one. I'm also going to drink a little bit of water because my voice has gotten a bit sore from all of the talking, but I did want to show you my new sketchbook. If you watch any of my previous videos, you may have seen it before. It's a little larger than the one that I just showed, and it's from Hanemühle, and it's my absolute all-time favorite. I can show you one of the books that I use already, and it comes with this ribbon, and in this case I have cut it short for some reason, but it comes with a ribbon and this nice texture, and I really like to have enough room to draw, so this is really my favorite kind of sketchbook. I also have some intentions for my new sketchbook. I would like to break it in very soon, and this time around I would really like to start with a nice cover page. It really makes something to be excited about and be excited to start drawing every time I see it, so I'm going to think about a theme for that one. And what I also would like to do is to dedicate a little moment of each working day in my art studio to creating something in my sketchbook. So it can be a little sketch, or work on a bigger piece in my sketchbook and just do a little bit of drawing first thing when starting to work. So to have a little bit more of a consistent habit with my sketchbook, and to hopefully fill it up I really would like to create some larger pieces again, graphite pencil pieces, but also color pencil pieces, to create some new Patreon prints even. Simultaneously do not want to be too perfectionist about my new sketchbook, and on the other hand I also want it to be perfect. So yeah, we'll see how that will turn out eventually. Well, I hope that you liked seeing my sketchbook, and this will go into my pile of other sketchbooks. I'm really glad that I finished another one and I can look back at it and see my drawing journey, and also see some of the things that I experienced in 2022 and 2023. And I hope it gave you a little bit of inspiration to start sketching yourself or to open your sketchbook. And I really like to see you in the next video. Thank you for watching. Bye bye!